the state of the smartphone industry in 2018. Well, I don't have a Surface phone, so I don't care about the state of the smartphone industry.
I sip way too much drink. I don't think I can think. I won't try to tell lies. This blunt got me too high.
What is the deal, beautiful people? My name is Ramon. This is Lifestyles Defined, where we talk tech all day, every day. And we're talking about the state of the smartphone industry. I would want to say early 2018, although I don't expect the next iPhone, the iPhone 11 and iPhone... Well, did we ever settle on a name for the follow-up to the iPhone 8? Would it be the iPhone 9? Oh, Apple's lost their goddamn mind. I don't expect anything crazy coming from the Galaxy. I think it's going to be more of the same. But just in case, this video is going to be the state of the smartphone industry in early 2018. So I want to break this down by, of course, we've got Apple in one corner, we got Android in one corner. So let's take a look at Apple. I think Apple has lost their way. As a Apple hater and a Microsoft fanboy, it is in my best interest to love this topic. Also, as a technologist and a lover of technology, this is worrisome because Apple's influence, be it good or bad in the industry, just spreads like wildfire. And if Apple truly has lost their way, then I assure you the technology industry is in a maze right now. The first thing when sort of glancing over at Apple to see what's going on, there's way too many products. I mean, it's mind-numbing the amount of phones that's for sale right now over at Apple. There is the iPhone 7, there's the 7S. Wait, is there a 7S? I don't even know. There's this, I think there's a 7. There's an 8 that just came out. There's still the iPhone 5e. There's still iPhone 6s's that they're selling. There's the iPhone 10. Like what are you doing? There's like a million iPads. Some of them are due for refreshes. Some are just hanging around with no purpose. The Mac, the laptops are overlapping each other. Apple's apologizing about screwing up the iMac Pros and really disrespecting the core professional who put them in the door in the first place. And I want to go back to Pixar, Steve Jobs. You know, after Apple fired his ass and then went crawling back, the first thing Steve did when he came back to Apple was got rid of SKUs. He said, guys, you're selling too much shit. Stop it. We're going to sell this one thing and we're going to sell it well. And we're going to set a retarded, ridiculous price and people are going to pay it. And that's how he brought that company to stardom. And now it's lost in the sauce. Like, what is Apple? I can't even tell my mother what new iPhone she should get. Okay, so her iPhone is a little long in the tooth. She wants to get a new one. I don't know what to tell her to get. Do you get a 7? Do you get a 6? Do you get a 10? It's too much. It's too much. I think Apple has lost their way in terms of design. The vertical notch on the iPhone 10 is just hideous. The way it's up in the corner it's just terrible design. I have nothing against a vertical camera cluster, but that vertical thing, that's terrible. Then it's the way it sits flat on the table and it's rocking. That's terrible. I mean, it's always been an issue with the later generations of iPhones, which I always was a knock against. Like, guys, I don't think Steve would have let this fly at all. Now it's just obnoxious with that dual camera cluster on the back and how it's whatever. The notch, oh my God. Listen, I fully respect the technology that's in that notch. And I get it. I get it. I like it. I'm with it. You'll hear no argument from me about fingerprint reader versus Face ID. I don't care. This is what they're using. Rock out. The issue I have with this, and when it comes to design, is Apple prided themselves on solving problems but never sacrificing design. That is exactly what this is. That notch is a sacrifice to design because of the Face ID, and that's not something that we've always seen in Apple, and it's kind of telling. iOS is a mess right now. It's a bug fest. It's slow. It's laggy, and I don't want to hear it. Listen, I use an iPhone every day for my work phone. I've used an iPhone every day for the last like 7 years. Like, I use it. Trust me, I use it. There are things about it that I notice that just drives me nuts. Sometimes the phone is ringing, I can't answer the goddamn phone. And that issue alone has been happening for like the last 3 years. 3 different phones. Like I go to swipe, it won't answer. There's like some of the design cues in the OS just drive me crazy. Like there's like rows, huge text saying messaging. I know what the hell app I'm in. I don't need this super large bold font that's taking up real estate that I could be reading. Listen, iOS is a mess. So much so that Apple has come out and said, we're going to take some time. We're going to pull some engineers from over there. We're going to slow down. We're going to clean up iOS. So much so that the next version of iOS won't be pushing the envelope, so to speak. It'll be house cleaning. It'll be making this thing run right, running better. The later versions have been okay, but it's still got a long way to go. Over in the Android camp, Android has come a long way. Specifically talking about the operating system, I quite like where Android is today. Watching Android mature was sort of a painful process. It did nothing but get clunkier and clunkier, and the features got crazier, and the hardware could never really keep up to the software. The latter versions of Android, I think, did a good job at kind of what Apple has to do now, taking a step back, doing some house cleaning. And then with maturity just comes maturity. How much more groundbreaking features can you add to an OS? You know, it's not much after it's been around for almost 10 years. And I think that Android is Google or Alphabet, whatever the hell these people call themselves these days, they've been taking Android in a steady, comfortable, really good place. And I quite like that. I didn't really expect it from Android, right? Because you think Android and you think apps crashing and all of this craziness. You think the wild, wild west. Google's been doing a really good job with the OS. Some would even say they're iOSifying it. They're making things more playful and round. And I have no idea because I own a Samsung. And it's been looking like that since the dawn of time. Whatever. The Android OEMs are as strong as ever. A lot of them are rivaling Apple in design, and I don't know if it's a lot to be said for that, because Apple, like I just ranted, aren't themselves according to me. So is it really that hard to catch them? I don't know. But we got OnePlus doing a good job. We got Samsung just knocking it out of the ballpark. And Samsung is by far holding the torch. When you think about Android and what a Android phone should look like, definitely Samsung. But there's some heavy hitters. You know, you've got some of the Chinese companies out here, the Huawei's, the Xiaomi's. They're killing it. I think even Google's throwing their hat in the ring with the Pixel, and they're doing a good job there. So I'm happy to see where the Android OEMs are. Very strong design, very strong specs. They're also killing it in the camera arena. There's a lot of dope stuff. It's a 50-50 thing. The cameras, Android cameras are really good. I think I could say some of them are better than iOS or Apple, and that in itself is a feat. I mean, you look at the iPhone 3, 4, 5, 6. Those were the iterations where Apple just dominated in camera performance, and not only stills but video. You know, 60 frames a second. That was all Apple for a long time. Now you got Android OEMs out here with 960 something frame a second slow motion. You got 4K video recording, raw file. All that stuff is there. I think Android is killing it in the camera space. But there's also some buffoonery going on. You got manufacturers with these 2 and 3 now cameras at the back, and at the end of the day, the pictures look no better. You know, they're killing themselves sinking this money in R&D to figure out how to get a portrait mode. Meanwhile, Instagram is doing it with a software update. Like, guys, come on, like, cut that out. Figure that out. One camera, one lens, get the software right, and just rock out. What I don't like about where Android is these days, you've got the updates. My God, it is atrocious. You know, I joke, and it's not a joke, it's a real complaint, but I have sort of made peace with the buffoonery. You want the latest updates? Buy the newest Samsung. And I feel like Samsung, you know, there's people that work and there's no way a company that big can't figure this out. I feel like they just sit at home and they're like, idiots, you'll buy it anyway. So stop complaining. And it's true. You know, it sucks. I really enjoyed when I had that Nexus 6P and to just read about something, Google's doing such and such, and then like a week later it shows up on my phone. Like, oh my God, that was amazing. Do you know the feeling I got when I was setting up my Galaxy S9, and there is now these Google Assistant routines, so I can say, hey, G-word, good morning, and then it starts blurting off the weather. It tells me my commute, and then it starts playing news podcasts, and I'm like, holy shit, that's dope. And in the back of my head, I'm like, cut it out, idiot. That's a year old. And it sucks to be that way. And not only is it a problem for features, but it's a real problem for security. A lot of these companies aren't pushing security updates. Not only are they not pushing the updates, they're lying about pushing this. They say they push it, but they didn't. It's all over the map, and it's a mess. And Google really needs to step up and address it. Figure it out. I get it. You know, this is much like Microsoft when you have that conversation about they're providing the software to so many different OEMs. How could you possibly have Windows run? You know, Paul Thurrott used to say, he always says it actually, it's a miracle that Windows doesn't blue screen every time you turn it on. When you think about how many different hardware combinations it has to work with, and if Microsoft can figure it out, Google can figure it out. Come on, Google. Then you've got the notch. My God, I hate having this conversation, but the annoying thing about the notch is I don't mind the notch. The iPhone 10 has taught me that the notch will go away. And it's not like they're the first with a notch. You know, you've got the Essential phone who had it, and I've never held an Essential phone, so I don't know what it's like to use it at length, but I have used an iPhone 10 at length. And I can tell you the notch just fades away. You just immersed in the experience after a while. It can be a minor annoyance when watching videos, yada, yada, yada. But not only does it fade away, but Apple does a good job at justifying why it's there. They got a whole Xbox Connect in the front of your phone. And then I look at all these Android OEMs like, well, why do you have a notch? I don't know. Because Apple did it? Like, that's not good enough. That is not good enough. It's at this point, it's like fighting the battle of a fingerprint reader or a 3.5 millimeter jack. Like, you could argue all day, and it's crazy that they took it. You know what? They got rid of it. Get over it. Figure it out. Don't get left behind looking for old shit in your new phone. Today, I feel like smartphones in general, and this is more of an Android thing, but Android does control most of that scope. We're not talking sales here. Don't bait me on that. But I think a lot of these manufacturers, these OEMs, are still in a place where they're throwing power at the phones, and the OS is mature. You know, there isn't much more you can do to it, and I feel like both Apple and specifically Android just need to double down on the operating itself and software. And this is why I've always loved Microsoft is a software company first. I always believe that your hardware, sure, is a structure, it's a stance, but it's really the software that will make the miracles. And I feel like in the smartphone world, we aren't here yet. And I feel like Windows Phone was the perfect example of this. You know, minus all the noise behind the conspiracy of why they didn't sell and why they didn't have apps and all of this. Windows Phone was the most modern OS we had. And it was more modern than iOS and Android. Windows Phone ran super smooth on very meager hardware. And I feel like neither Apple nor the Android people can figure that out. And it sucks. It's like, guys, get it together. But what I will say is I like what Google is doing. See, Google is not so much worried about all these new features. They're doubling down on AI, on taking the functions of your day-to-day life and having your phone not only automate it, but have it available for you when you need it or before you know you needed it. I feel like that is going to go a lot further in the next 2 to 3 years than any of these little features you could add to the camera app and the photo app and the text messaging app. Like, I think doubling down on AI is what's really gonna push us to the next evolution in the smartphone world. And I don't see Apple keeping up there because they're notoriously behind with AI. But I don't know. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hit the comments below. I want to know how you feel about the state of the smartphone industry today, be it Apple or be it Android. Is there anything I missed out? Anything, a point that you would like to stress? Let me know in the comment section down below. My name is Ramon. Please like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. I'm out of here. Peace.
But wait, before we get out of here and that outro rolls, I want to introduce to you the Lifestyles Defined merch store. And you can access that on the website off to the right. There's a link that'll take you right into there. So how this came about is we get a lot of messages from you guys. You want to support, you want to know how to support. And it never really felt right to just straight up take your money, as crazy as that sounds. So what we did here was we went and got a bunch of designs and we put them on shirts, hoodies, and everything else. And now we feel better because when you support us, you get something tangible. You get a piece of the community. And I think this is the way it should be. So I'm very excited about that. And I would love for you guys to head over to the website, check it out, leave a comment below. Let us know how you dig in the designs. And of course, thank you. Well, I guess. And the reason we started Lifestyles Defined is because if we weren't on camera arguing about these things, the technologies, the phones, the iPhones, the Androids, the cameras, the games, we'd be on the phone arguing about it. We'd be in each other's houses arguing about it. So why not just put it in front of a camera for everyone to enjoy it the way we do? That's what Lifestyles Defined is all about. We just